Hey guys, welcome back to AP Wargaming and Terrain. This week I wanted to do something a little bit different. Usually I build everything out of XPS, but I work at a grocery store and I have access to a lot of different types of cardboard. Single corrugated all the way up to quadruple corrugated cardboard. So I wanted to try something a little different and see if I couldn't make something just as pretty out of cardboard as I could XPS. Let's head to the table and I'll show you how I made this ruined building out of just cardboard. So let's head on down. Okay guys, so first step here is I wanted to figure out what type of cardboard I wanted to use, and I decided to go with double corrugated so I didn't have to double up the backing on a single corrugated cardboard. However, if you only have access to single corrugated cardboard, which is what most shipping companies use to send things, just trace out your pattern like I do on mine, and then just retrace it out on another piece and hot glue them together, and then you'll have a thicker wall instead of just a single corrugated cardboard piece, which will be a lot more sturdy for you. Once the walls were all laid out and I had the design that I wanted, I cut them out, and then it was time to start working on that second floor. Now I knew exactly the size that I needed. However, I later discovered that my second floor was a little too short, so I did have to make another one, which is fine because it's just cardboard. It's very easy to get your hands on. Now, after I had everything cut out, I hot glued the walls together, just using my mat to make sure that the corners were at a 90 degree and everything was flush on the floor so that there was no gaps or anything that I was going to have to hide later on. Then once the floor was in and we had all that sorted out, I decided I was going to put a door right dead center in the front wall. I just took my door template, traced it out, cut it out with an X-Acto knife. Now, once that was done, I decided that the walls were a little too flat and I needed to add something else to them. So, as most old buildings, a buttress seemed like the best way to go. So I just took some of the scrap cardboard that I still had left over, cut out inch wide stripping, and after they were cut out, I hot glued them together. Try not to use too much hot glue. If it flows over, it kind of makes a mess, and you won't see it at first, but you will see it when you start to dry brush. Now, when I was laying out where I wanted the buttresses to be setting on the walls, I put them a half an inch away from the corners on the buildings. Again, with everything else, you'll start to see a trend here in this build. I just use a hot glue gun to attach the buttresses to the walls. Now here comes the more tedious part of this build, and I tend to do this with all my builds, is I take it one step too far and make it really hard on myself. However, this turned out really well. So I just took some cardstock or cereal box cardboard, basically, drew out some 1/4 inch dots all across it, and then cut them out to length. I was not worried about the length on any of them because it's just cardboard. I could correct it as I went along through the build. If I needed shorter or longer pieces, it was very simple to just adjust what I was doing. Now, I couldn't figure out a better way to attach these bricks to the walls, so I just used tacky glue, smeared it all over the place, and then I laid out my bricks with just a small amount of spacing between each one, just to give the piece a little bit of depth to where not everything was just butted up right next to each other, which is actually going to help us in the end when it comes to painting. For the inside of the building, I didn't want to do the same exact pattern, mostly because it was extremely tedious and it took forever to do. So I decided to give a different type of technique a shot, and that was to just lay a few random bricks on the walls, and that would give the appearance of that wall being actual brick, with just a couple that were protruding from the rest of the wall. Now that we had the walls done, it was time to start working on the buttress pieces. Now, I took some more of my cereal box cardboard and drew a 1/2 inch strip. Now, when it came to putting the bricks onto the buttress, I filled the corrugation first with hot glue, which actually gave me a good stable point in which to glue all of these buttresses onto. Now, let's not forget about the corrugation inside the doorway. I just grabbed one of the extra 1/4 inch stripping from when we were doing the bricks and just bent it into shape, and then hot glued it inside the doorway, and then clipped off the extra. Now, to do the floor, I didn't want it to just be flat, and I also knew that I couldn't do a wood floor because I was using cardboard. Unless somebody knows a way of doing that, please leave a comment down below so I can look into that. I just made 3/4 inch tiles, made a handful of them, and then just slapped them on top with some tacky glue, again leaving a little bit of spacing just to give the appearance of depth. Now that puts us at basically the end of the build here. It was very light and it was just easy to move around. So I took a note from DM Scotty and filled all of the corrugation with hot glue just by running the hot glue gun up and down it and pushing it into the corrugation, which was also going to help us with giving this piece just a little bit of texture. Now, I wasn't happy with the front door because you could see a lot of little mistakes with the cardboard that I was using, so I decided to make a front face for the door. Now, I said this was 100% cardboard build, which, in my opinion, it is. However, I did need to use gravel from just from the alley. Now when it came to painting, because it's cardboard, I just took it outside and spray painted the whole thing black, because it also is cardboard in the sense that it will suck up all of that spray paint. It takes like 2 minutes for it to dry. So this part went really quick. As soon as that was done, we gave it a heavy loaded dry brush with gray, leaving a little bit of black showing, followed up by a tan color just to try to hit the tops of all these bricks. And because there was really no texture to this piece other than it just being cardboard, it had a really difficult time grabbing a hold. So I had to make a few passes until I had it to where I liked it. And then the final piece to this was just going in with an off-white, like a vanilla color, and just hitting the edges of everything just to give it a little bit more pop. Alright guys, so that is it for this week. This build turned out way better than I thought it was going to. I had a lot of fun once I figured out the rhythm. I'm so used to XPS that this took me a little bit before I actually started to understand that I could just basically do anything with cardboard, which is surprising. So I'm probably going to do more of this in the future. But all in all, this build turned out really well. It only took collectively a couple of hours, so it was definitely worth it in trying to do something new. And I know I see and hear a lot about people on the social media sites saying that, you know, they can't get a hold of XPS. They don't know where to buy it, or they can't buy it in whatever country they're from. So this just goes to show that it isn't the material that makes the craft. It's just having that drive to be able to craft something that you can find any material around the house, use it and make it into something else. Before we end the video, I just want to give a shout out to Joe Spears and Zach SH for supporting me on Patreon. Really appreciate that. That helps me out a lot. There's more to come for my Patreon page in the future, but for the moment, it will just be me thanking you guys, and you have no idea how much it means. It really does keep me pushed and going in the right direction with this stuff. So thank you again to you guys for supporting me on Patreon. So that is it for this week, and we will call it right there. So we'll see you guys this time next week.